Bitcoin has just done something absolutely huge right here. What we had in this market was a set of highs where we were trending lower, right? And this is where you end up setting highs in our trend. We move down, we set a high right here, bam, another one right here, another one here, another one here. And most recently, the one that was quite important for us was in the mid $44,000 range. And we've now broken it, or are just kind of right on the edge of it. So this is a very, very important time in the market right now where, you know, if you hold Bitcoin, this is obviously going to be absolutely critical for you. Because here's the thing, is that generally in downtrends like this, if you see that the market manages to, you know, set a high like right here, let's just drop a line, and then we manage to actually exceed that high, which we're doing at the moment, that is going to be a very clear sign that we're no longer setting what's called lower highs, right? If the market was actually in a downtrend, we'd be setting lower lows and lower highs. And what that looks like, again, if we zoom out, is that, see, each of our lows are getting quite visibly, obviously lower within this trend, right? They're just generally, we're setting lower lows. Now the same thing applies to the highs, where we're setting higher highs, lower highs within the same market as well, and that kind of indicates to us that actually, yeah, we're in a very, very clear downtrend. Now if we start breaking these highs, that's showing us a real shift in the power of the market, where the bulls are actually potentially putting up a lot more power than the bears are able to, because, you know, the bears didn't end up, you know, setting this as a high, for example, and then keeping the market trending down. And this is very, very important. But here's the thing, right? The question that I want to start asking, because this channel is all about being rational, right? I mean, you know, one of the things that I just want to draw your attention to is that Bitcoin, from its absolute low over here to its current high, has managed to move up by 38% within about 15 days. So a very, very quick move that Bitcoin has been able to pull off in literally just a touch over 2 weeks. And you know, we're now just passing the resistance at the moment. This is one of the things I was warning you about while Bitcoin was lower around over here, saying that, see, like, Bitcoin can rise all the way up into this range. And I was actually calling for Bitcoin to rise up to about $40,000 to $42,000. I didn't expect us to shoot up this high this quickly, but I was talking about this general range. And what I was saying is that, see, Bitcoin is going to have to push really hard just to get up into this range. And by the time it does, it's going to be potentially quite overextended. This is the... So I don't know what's wrong with my voice. This is the thing that, you know, I don't think people are paying attention to right now. We look at things like the Fear of Greed Index, and it's not actually super bullish at the moment at all. It's just in neutral territory with a reading of 48. But bottom line, I think people are, you know, a lot more optimistic about the market today than they were, you know, just a week ago. And we can actually see that, where if we look at where we were last week or even last month, we're looking at fear and extreme fear, you know, for those slightly more historical readings. But right now, people are feeling pretty good. And, you know, what I find concerning about this, right, is like, okay, look, we have technically broken the downtrend now according to this definition. There's many more definitions of how to break a downtrend, but this is one of the main ones, and so this is very significant, right? And you guys know the deal. I've already told you what I think is going to happen now that we've broken this level, right? I've already had these two yellow lines drawn, and I said that if we break these two yellow lines, we're probably going to have a pretty easy ride going up to these two red lines over here. Now what I want to do in this video is just tell you a few things that you must be aware of if you're in this market. If you know, if you want to have some, you know, level-headed decision-making abilities, right? If you don't care about that stuff and you just want to be jacking yourself off to high price predictions because, you know, Bitcoin's finally rallied up by 38% from a new swing low, then fine, you get the fuck off the channel. But if you actually care about rational TA and you want to know the real deal of what's going on, this is what this channel is going to bring to you today. So like I said, when we're out of that downtrend, that's really clearing the skies for us to be rising up a little bit more. The best thing Bitcoin can do, in my opinion, now is actually come back down for a retest of these levels, find a little bit of support, and then rise up. And that doesn't mean going down by a lot. I mean, just $1,000 or $2,000 down would be good. Ideally, if we can do it slowly, that would be even better, because this move up has been very, very quick. So it would be nice to see, you know, a little bit of a falling wedge, perhaps down to 43, down to 42, 41 would be spectacular, although I don't know if we're actually going to get that. We can even throw a Fibonacci retracement on this thing and take a look at where, you know, a little bit of support might be able to be found in this trend. I mean, yeah, like 382 level right here at 42, that would be absolutely phenomenal. And actually, if we draw this from our absolute low over here and we take a look at where, yeah, I mean, 382 level still sitting around that $41,000 level, so that would be pretty cool if we're able to come down to one of those Fibonacci retracements. But then just up ahead, you know, I have been saying that I expect it to be a pretty easy ride up to these two red lines. I do believe that to be the case now. However, I still want to outline you know, some of these key resistance areas that could still be playing on the market. One of them right here at 45.7, you can see that the market was interacting with this level a lot as support, you know, towards the end of last year. And now we are potentially actually just finding a little bit of resistance from this range at the moment as well. This range kind of stretches all the way up to about 48,000, so it's a fairly large range. I mean, you're talking about like a $1,000 odd range right here, where Bitcoin could expect resistance in a box that looks something a little bit like this. You know, just one of those little, you know, I would see this almost as just a roadblock for Bitcoin to get in up here. I don't think that it's going to be the resistance that stops Bitcoin, because bottom line, this resistance that Bitcoin has already broken in the low 40k range was, in my opinion, I was saying this a lot on this YouTube channel, those of you who are subscribed to know all about this, this resistance was the strongest resistance Bitcoin has on the chart, full stop. And so now that Bitcoin has been able to break it, yeah, there's still resistance up ahead, but I just don't think that, you know, if a very strong area of resistance wasn't able to hold Bitcoin back, then I'm not so sure about a relatively weaker one, just in my opinion, going off my own analysis. And so I am looking at a fairly straight move up, but it's all with this one big caveat, this one big catch, and it is that from our low, like I said, Bitcoin has actually managed to rally up by about 38% right now, and that's a huge rally, right? I don't think many people are actually paying attention of this. I don't think most people are being cognizant of these facts at the moment. It doesn't mean that we should be crashing down, but it absolutely does mean that we should at least be trading sideways or doing something to kind of consolidate. Perhaps we do hit the resistance up in this range, and then we drop down, and then we end up, you know, rallying higher or something like that towards the 50k range. I don't know how it will look, but I'm just telling you guys, you know, how this market does to me look a little bit overextended at the moment. And here's the thing that I want to show you, right, is I just want to identify a few different key downtrends that Bitcoin has been in, and then talk about what happened when Bitcoin formed an equivalent rise of, you know, by, you know, rising up by like plus 38%, because I know a lot of people are getting bullish right now. They're wondering, should I be buying back in Bitcoin right now? Should I sell my Bitcoin? Different things like that. You know, bottom line, when you're in a downtrend and you get such a strong reaction rally off a new swing low, which isn't even a pattern that the market typically bottoms from. I mean, generally, if you're going to form a bottom, you're going to be forming a pattern that looks, you know, something like, you know, this is a falling wedge, for example. This is quite a bullish pattern, or, you know, previously I mentioned to you guys, when Bitcoin bottomed out at $3,000, it formed an ascending triangle that looked a little bit like this. This is also a potential bottom pattern. These are the kind of things you would expect. You wouldn't expect to start a new uptrend from a new swing low. We did do that right here with the March coronavirus market crash, but broadly speaking, I mean, I would very much consider this the exception rather than the rule. And Bitcoin is in one of those quite dangerous positions right now. So just laying out the facts right now, I mean, you know, these are things that I'm considering as somebody who has real capital at risk in the market, and I want to make sure that I'm making the best decisions for my funds, obviously. And you know, one of the key things that I think is worth looking at is, you know, when the market gets such big pumps like this in a relatively short span of time after being in a downtrend, you know, what tends to happen, right? So let's take a look at, well, I mean, let's just see this downtrend right here. You know, let's take a look at this one where Bitcoin ends up bottoming out at, and actually, can we use this one right here? Let me measure this real quick. Nearly, we can't use this one, unfortunately. I just want to focus your attention on this low that Bitcoin set right here, where it trended all the way down. This is, you know, for those of you who need the context, this is when Bitcoin reached $20,000 back in 2017, entered a big, disgusting bear market, and then fell through its floor at 6K, fell through that 6K floor, fell down to $3,000, which is where it eventually found support. And then we were looking at a chart that looked a little bit like this. And if we look at this on the 4-hour time frame to get a little bit more of a zoomed in view, this is actually fairly similar to what Bitcoin is in right now. Not quite the same thing, because I think the end of the downtrend over here got a little bit less extreme. The end of our current downtrend got even more extreme. But bottom line, what we had here from the support level that we found support at all the way to the high was a rally of about 34%. So it's even smaller than what we're in right now. But bottom line, you know, if you wanted to go long on Bitcoin, let's say when Bitcoin had managed to rise up by about 30%, you would have entered a long position around over here. And I just want to illustrate to you how dangerous this can be, because, you know, I mean, Bitcoin, this range was the range where Bitcoin bottomed out in, don't get me wrong, but it took a long time, right? I mean, if we replay this chart forward and we look at what happened in real time with the market, let's say that this yellow line was your entry level to buy Bitcoin or go long, you would have been underwater for a long time, and you would have only been underwater for a long time purely because the market had just rocketed up so much, right? I mean, we don't move in straight lines, and when we do move in straight lines for too long, we tend to get very, very extreme reactions. Those extreme reactions might not come quickly, but they will come eventually, and you're going to see that as the chart replays. And I think that's a very important thing that we ought to keep in mind with these kind of ranges in the market right now, ladies and gents, because I think a lot of people are going to be looking at the chart going up by 38% and thinking that it's never going to come back down. And you know what? It might never come back down, but how realistic is that? Honestly speaking, how realistic is it that Bitcoin isn't going to be coming back down, considering that it is still, I mean, it's just broken that downtrend. It's still kind of in it. We haven't had, for example, a weekly close above that level. I mean, there's a lot more things we can do to cement the fact that we may not be in a downtrend anymore. But here is the big price explosion showing us that, look, I mean, we had a very, very extreme drop right here. This is nowhere near the drop that we saw within our market recently. But I mean, the price was suppressed for about 3 months, but when it stopped being suppressed, it shot the fuck up, and it was an absolutely crazy rally. I actually went long on Bitcoin the literal day before this whole thing happened, and I went short on Bitcoin on the day of this dump as well, and made a beautiful 60% profit down and a 360% profit up, because I had gained a lot more confidence. And so that was all going down inside of VIP as well. If you want to see what's going on behind those closed doors, then these are the steps on screen to jump inside of 𝗓𝗡ly's VIP, where you can see absolutely every detail about every trade I'm making in real time. It is a very, very in-depth package right there. You get a lot, and you can just find out what's on offer by following these 3 red boxes, the buttons here, clicking them and then asking me how to join VIP. It'll take you about 30 seconds to ask, and we'll get back to you within 5-10 minutes. It's a direct chat with me, so if you want to ask me questions, you can do that as well, and if I can't respond, one of my assistants will. But moving us back to the video here, a very, very important note in my opinion, if we take it back to the chart right now, is just acknowledge that, I mean, look, I know that this might look very bullish, and it's definitely going to be giving a lot of people some excitement at the moment, but bottom line, like I said, even though we have now officially broken the downtrend according to this definition, we are extended by quite a bit right now. And again, that doesn't mean that we're going to be dropping, but it definitely does mean that, like, I mean, and this is what I was warning about before we even did this whole move, is that Bitcoin is going to have to move up really high just to break the downtrend, right? That's what makes it difficult in this kind of range. If Bitcoin hadn't dropped down by so much and then it consolidated, it would have been a lot easier for Bitcoin to break the downtrend, right? In this case, if we measure it from the low that I just drew to our current price, that's a 16% pump. That's a lot easier to swallow than a 38% pump. I mean, it's half the size, and it's just generally, I mean, I'd be a lot more comfortable. It's still even plus 16. I prefer to go long at the lows, not necessarily when the market is already quite extended to the upside. But when you've already moved up by about 38%, you got to start asking yourself a question, because nothing goes up or down in a straight line forever. I mean, look, I mean, there are exceptions, don't get me wrong. Bitcoin forms these kinds of exceptions regularly, but bottom line, I mean, how often can we actually do that, right? And more importantly, are we due for a pullback as we start approaching resistance levels? Is this going to be tricking a lot of people? Because I still think that that's a real possibility, just seeing the vigor with which the market is moving up, and actually watching how people are responding to this in terms of their sentiment, the things they're saying, that the sentiment that I'm seeing on social media. There's a lot of happiness around this kind of move, and when the market gives people happiness, like on occasions like what happened over here, it's generally in order to snatch it back from them 10 times harder and drop the market down again. I'm not saying that that's gonna well, I can't speak. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but what I am saying is that this is generally what tends to happen in markets. And is this the exception? Is this time different? Well, you guys know how dangerous saying things like that can indeed be. I mean, saying that this time is different for whatever reason is generally a pretty bad idea. It doesn't mean that this time isn't indeed different. I mean, for example, this time was different. This time was different. We were moving up in a straight line, and you know what? We were able to sustain it for a small while, but then we paid for it like fucking hell with such a disgusting downtrend, right? So I mean, eventually these things do catch up to us. It's just a case of how long does it take. So very, very important note right there. If we take a quick look at the altcoin market, Ethereum actually losing a little bit of strength against Bitcoin now, exactly as predicted. This is exactly what I was calling for. It has managed to rise against the dollar because Bitcoin is pulling it up, but it's not rising as fast as Bitcoin. And yeah, altcoins across the board as well, generally not doing anything super impressive. Cardano's just broken above the $1.20 area, so that's interesting, but Phantom still in its resistance zone. Solana hasn't even hit its resistance zone right now. So, you know, it's not all roses and sunshine just yet for the altcoin market. But naturally, you know, when Bitcoin is rising, we're probably going to see the altcoins get left behind just for a short while until people get really optimistic again and then they start putting their money back into altcoins. But we haven't seen that yet. So there you go, guys. That's my update for Bitcoin for right now. I'm going to make another video later on today. So if you are already subscribed, you'll be able to catch that. Make sure you do hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well if you have enjoyed this video. If you want to jump inside of VIP, these are the steps all on screen right here. Or if you just want more free analysis and insights from me and my team, you can get that by clicking on the first link in the description down below. That's going to take you to my free 4Flies Gold channel, which looks a little bit like this, where you get more analysis from me and my team completely free of charge, ping straight to your phone. If you want to trade on the same exchange that I'm using, it's Bybit. It's linked in the description down below, and you're going to be getting free cash deposited into your account as a thank you for using my link in the description down below. So definitely do check that out as well if you are interested. And with that, ladies and gents, I'll see you all in the next video. It's probably going to be an altcoin video or a live stream later on tonight, or both. So again, make sure you are staying tuned for that. You've ticked the bell and all that good stuff, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.